everyone. So I wanted to do this video because lately I've been seeing like stuff that I find annoying. And usually when I find things annoying, I either want to like ignore the stuff or I want to talk about it, express my opinions when it comes to different things and go from there. So lately I have been going on to Substack. I like Substack. I think it's an interesting platform. You can go and write all kinds of stuff on there. I mean, personally, I haven't seen anything that I would say is banned from there. You can go and talk about politics or books or whatever it is. I often thought about, because I do have my own page on there, but I don't post anything. So I think for me, I think one day I probably will start posting on there, like just random thoughts. It's almost like having a blog, basically. But I do like it there because you can find all different opinions, no matter what it is. So this one page I found, they're called the Reading Nook, but they go by Entirely Bonkers on there. So it says it's a place for book reviews, book rants, movie recommendations, and meandering thoughts of a woman who's a year away from 30. So, so she had also created a YouTube channel. So I'll go and put this stuff down. I'll put it in my description. So if you're interested in following her on her Substack, I'll put that down in my description, as well as her YouTube channel that she just recently started. I haven't watched her videos yet. There's 2 videos that I still need to watch. But I wanted to check out her stuff because I like her Substack and I like a lot of the things that she has to say. So she ended up posting this post where it was talking about the Call Me Chris drama that happened like last month. So it says, if Book Talk was a community of men, we would be calling the police. I have to agree. It says, Call Me Chris, Book Talk controversy, erotica novels, and more. So she says, I love playing devil's advocate in any situation on any theme. As a reader and a lit major, I can't imagine not covering all the basis of an argument. It's not productive. We can't just agree to disagree, because if my disagreement is met with, you should just be silent, that is not a fruitful conversation. You just want my silence so you don't have to analyze the content you are consuming, so you don't have to face the reality of what we normalized. For instance, when the YouTuber Call Me Chris posted a video last month on the current most popular Book Talk books, she received intense backlash. One of her criticisms was, why do current Book Talk romance covers look like they could be sharing a shelf with Charlotte's Web if they're filled with erotic content? So it shows a picture of Icebreaker, and then it shows a picture of Charlotte's Web. I'm sure people are going to go and say, oh, well, there's differences, blah, 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 da, 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 in the comment section. That's fine, whatever. So she says, my response on Instagram was pretty simple. Hey, everyone, she's got a point. Maybe she should talk about it. Publishers listen to social media users. The resounding answer from my quote-unquote community was, you are a prude who is instigating purity culture. I have been reading erotica since I was 13 years old, and I turned out just fine. Teens will come across erotica content regardless. It's the parents' responsibility to filter what their children consume. If you think she was right to point this out, it just means you're okay with Project 2025. She was shaming an entire group of readers. I love the side eye. The side, yep. First, the desperation in their argument alone lit a few red flags for me. The reason you feel so strongly attached to the cute cartoon covers as an adult and is ready to fight tooth and nails for it makes me a little uncomfortable, but regardless, let me entertain you. Yes, you do have a point. parents are responsible for filtering what their children consume. Yes, 100%. Totally agree with that. The publisher or the author have no responsibility in how you raise your children and the content they stumble across out in the world. That doesn't change the fact that these covers feel predatory. Thank you for putting it into words for me. This is exactly how I felt. Predatory. Two things can be true at once. But a community of readers has suddenly lost the ability to see nuance. Thank you. Thank you. We can have nuanced conversations. I mentioned that Target employers were accidentally placing these books in the children's section, bookstore owners as well. Your answer was once again a resounding, not my problem. But the Target employee who is living on minimum wage does not see it as his problem either. He is just there to fill the shelves based on SKU numbers. When I say, hey, I think this is worth a discussion because I think the children of our country deserve this level of care and protection, I was a pre-K teacher. I have seen and studied at length the damage early access to erotic content can cause to a developing brain. There is a reason for that. Studies clearly show that children who are exposed to erotic content too early in life are more likely to be groomed, sexually abused, and manipulated. Teen girls get their periods earlier as well. I should know I was raised the same way as most of you were, with Wattpad and fan fiction erotic content at the age of 12. I got my period at 12 when most of my friends got theirs between 15 and 16. I lost my virginity at 14. Most of my friends lost theirs at 18. I read a lot of age gap romances and I thought I was so cool when an older guy was interested in me. So I was emotionally manipulated and groomed by a 20-year-old when I was 15 and by a 36-year-old teacher when I was 17. Could my parents have protected me from that? I am sure they could have, if they knew. I hid everything from them. I hid my computer, I hid my messages, I hid my entire life. Part of me knew how wrong it all was and felt, but I was a child. I had no discernment. That wasn't my fault, but it was also not my parents' fault either. Our society is not focused on protecting children. Ain't that the truth? Should we hold these men accountable? Yes, we should. Predators are predators, and they will, sadly, always exist. But if my mind had been shielded from sexual content until I was a little bit older to have some kind of discernment, maybe I would have been able to protect myself a little better. I always say I think the book My Dark Vanessa should be mandatory reading in schools for boys and girls. It is a disturbing but incredibly well-written manual on how to recognize signs of grooming and manipulation from an adult. I actually need to read that one. I need to read it, but it's heavy. It's heavy. So it says it's okay for us to agree to disagree. I think this subject should be discussed more often, but my community's unwillingness to remotely acknowledge that these covers could be handled better makes me wonder which side they are on. You are like any other conservative. I am not a conservative, far from that actually. But when you start defending a subject with the same anger a 10-year-old clings to his iPad, if there is a Minecraft on it, as an adult, I have every right to express concerns. Yep. Sex sells, I know. As an adult, read it, write it, don't read it, talk about it, don't talk about it. I couldn't care less, honestly. However, I played a game with my husband the last time we went to Barnes & Noble's. We opened multiple books in a row to a random page, both in the horror, fantasy, and romance sections. I will talk about this after. And we were timing how long it took for us to land on a "You Feel So Good on My Cock" scene. 27 books later, and every single time we landed on a sex scene within a few seconds. Some of these scenes were at around page 20, page 36. Yes, we have always had erotica novels. Yes, we have always had sex in books. Yes, explicit content has always existed. Here I am again trying to teach nuance to people. Laugh out loud. But this doesn't mean the current industry hasn't changed since Book Talk. It has. The quality of the writing has lowered, and the books have a higher density of sex scenes. No, I won't go as far as to call it porn, like most people say it is. I know it isn't. I love romance novels, but we also can't deny that the potato chip novels, as we like to call them, are not really novels. They're just Wattpad fan fiction taking over the industry by a storm. The industry is just riding that money wave. They don't care about feminine expression, sexual freedom, etc., etc. No publisher cares about those things. They just care about money. Like I said, write it, read it, buy it, publish it, talk about it. I don't care. But God, I am allowed to be fucking tired of it. I don't recommend movies to my friends based on that really hot sex scene on it. Constantly consuming sexual content or any other content to an extreme level has an effect on our brain. I was the most depressed when I was reading dark romance books on the daily. Requesting books recommendations without excessive sex scenes became the odd man out. The norm is now to have good girl, suck on my cock, can't wait to taste your pussy, I love your tight little hole, in every single romance novel you pick out there. I mean, people can't even bother to actually deliver erotica with character development. They can't bother to deliver erotica that doesn't feel like it was written by a 14-year-old who just found out what sex is like. I can count on one hand the amount of sexual or sensual novels I have read that made me feel connected, inspired, and converted to the characters' lives, wishes, wants, needs. Sex should be the cherry on top of a very well crafted plot, world, universe, and not a TikTok girlies are gonna love this one, dumbed down version of it. I am not against these books existing. Again, nuance. I have loved my fair share of romance novels and still do, but I am insulted every single time a grown-ass married woman writes an 18-year-old who knows she somehow likes BDSM as a virgin. The reality is that as women, we can all do better than that, especially if you are an author. Give me a real woman, give me real sexual, passionate adult relationships, and not your tumble porn teenage fantasies. I am fucking tired of reading dialogue of characters who have the mental maturity of a plant. They were mad at Call Me Chris because she was telling the truth and they didn't like it. She picked the most popular books on TikTok with billions of hashtags and she reviewed it fairly. She said, I am not a reader, but if I were, this is not what I'd want to be reading all the time. And I think you all need to touch some grass. And honestly, so do I, because what I heard from my own community over and over again was, if there is no spice, I am not touching it. I am not reading it. Oh, it is in third person? I'm not reading it. Don't even start talking to me about a book before giving me how many chili something peppers a book has. And if that is your only connection with reading, how much sex you can find in the book, I am not so sure you really like reading. I am sorry, I'm just not. LOL. As someone who has been a reader their entire life, I can't fucking believe that as a book reviewer, I need to confirm you will be able to masturbate to a book to convince you to read it. Again, don't wear the shoe if it doesn't fit. If that's not you, then you have nothing to take offense to. I'm going to say what everyone is thinking. If Book Talk was solely a community of men talking about their kinks in public and telling each other to read XYZ because they were able to read it with one hand while simultaneously jerking off to it, you would all be calling the police. You don't and never have accepted this level of sexual freedom for the opposite gender. Well, we in fact shame men for their sexual addictions. This is true. As for me, as a book content creator in a bookish space, I just want to meet readers who like to read because they always like to read and not because they're looking for the next thing to get off to. I'm not asking for much. I don't need Book Talk to go away. I don't think spice talk is the bane of our society and existence. I think every adult should be able to consume whatever content they'd like and publish about whatever they'd like as long as they're not harming anyone. But I also want us to stop pretending that this conversation isn't real, that these criticisms aren't valid because they are. The community is just too afraid to face it. This is true. This is so true. This is the problem that I've been having for a while when it comes to the romance community. is this constant defending. It's okay for us to have these cartoon covers, defending, but nobody wants to have any of these nuanced conversations. There are some things we shouldn't do when it comes to the romance community. Accepting these cartoon covers, like I said, there's a difference between cartoon versus illustrated. People have such a problem with Icebreaker, with that book cover, because it looks too cartoonish. It looks too much like it's for children. This is why it's constantly brought up, continuously brought up, like a dead horse, and you keep kicking it. Yes, I'm tired of talking about this. I'm tired of talking about that specific book that I DNF'd because I thought the writing was shit. I'm tired of this constant, let's defend this. I think the majority of people who enjoy these cartoon covers are ashamed of romance. That's what I think they are. I think deep down they're ashamed to read it, and they're ashamed to be caught reading it. I think that's the biggest thing for them. They're ashamed of being caught reading it in public. I heard this fucking excuse from Katie Robert on X, Twitter, where she's like, oh, people are being harassed in public for reading romance. Fucking where? Where are people being harassed for reading romance? Maybe teased, because I've been teased countless times. But that's it. And guess what? There are things called book covers. You could put a book cover on your book and no one will know what the fuck you're reading. No one will know. No one will know in public. Okay? Unless you're in some type of country where women have less rights and you're being shamed that way. We don't need to change them to kid covers in order to disguise them. Because I do feel like it is very predatory. I agree with this person. It is predatory. The constant cartoon covers. Why? They all look the same to me. So, this is why I'm like, I rarely buy a book from Barnes & Noble, because all the shit looks the same to me. Unless I recognize an author, it all looks the same. So I don't like to buy books, at least at full price, from Barnes & Noble. A lot of times I go through a book outlet, because you could find those books for like $5. Those same books at Barnes & Noble, you could find them for $5. All they're doing is selling overstock of the stuff that doesn't sell. At least with the body covers, with the couple on it in an embrace, it looks like an adult book. It doesn't look like it's for kids. Illustrated covers, you can do it in a way to where it still looks like an adult book, but it's done more affordably. Where I could see why there are authors nowadays who are like, I can't do people on the covers because it costs too much for the models and all that stuff, and then you're doing all this editing and everything like that to make the cover look nice. So they'll hire somebody cheaper who can do a drawing for them, for when it comes to the cover. I get that. I get that. I get that there are cartoons out there that are for adults. Totally get that too. I completely understand that. There are, Family Guy is an adult cartoon. South Park is an adult cartoon. Or for teens, teens can watch it too. I don't think it's that offensive to where teens can't watch it, Those are the majority adult cartoons. Same thing when there was some other type of show, can't remember the name of it, but it was on Netflix, and it was very, very dirty, like it's something that, kids shouldn't watch. That's something that, if my kid's like, what's this? I'd be like, oh, that's not for you. That's for adults. That's an adult cartoon. There are ways that you could kind of tell between an adult cartoon and a kid cartoon. But a lot of these romance covers are an issue. They are an issue. They need to be changed. We need to change them to something different. If you don't want people on the cover because it makes you uncomfortable, then you need to have them where they're more landscape background, that type of thing. That way kids are not picking these books up. And then the other issue I have is that Barnes & Noble has things sectioned off by genre. So if something's a fantasy, but it's more of like a romantasy type of book, they'll have it in the fantasy section. And I think that's the wrong placement for it. If there is sex in the book and it has a romance in it, whether or not the romance is secondary, it should be in the romance section still. It should still be in there because it has open door sex scenes in it. Anything that's clean fiction, if it's romance, you're still okay because you're not showing open door sex scenes. I think all that stuff needs to be in a section that says this is for adults. This is for adults. This is an adult section, not for kids. I found how many books over in the fantasy section that I knew because I pay attention to the books. I pay attention to what's coming out. I pay attention to the authors. So I knew these books were like romantic fantasy, or romantasy. Why are they in the fantasy section? It doesn't make sense. Those particular books should be in the romance section. I don't care if it's mainly a fantasy. It should be in the romance section. So why is it in fantasy? That doesn't make any sense, So there were books that I've seen where I'm like, a kid could pick this up and think it's a regular fantasy. Meanwhile, there's sex scenes in this, and the parent's not going to know unless they read it for themselves. I almost have to read every book before my child buys it. That's how I have to go by now because there are so many books nowadays where it's hidden. You don't know. This is why I say you make it easier by putting a rating system on the cover of the book. No matter how unattractive I think it is, removable sticker, if you want to do it that way, fine. But there needs to be some type of thing put on. I think there should be, just like how they do manga, they put a rating system on the back and it tells you exactly who it's for. For my children, I could keep bringing this up. For my children, my daughter moved her mangas, but on the back it has a little circle and it'll say older teen, adult, that type of thing. It says it right on the back. Is that censoring books? No, it isn't. There's a whole big section at my Barnes & Noble for manga. I see young people in that section all the time. All the time. Anime covers. But yet they do their due diligence by posting a rating on the back. If these kids get their hands on this, yeah, it's the parents' bad for, not looking over what their child bought. The company did their job by putting a rating on the back. This is why I ultimately think it's better just to put a rating system on it. Just put a rating system. We have rating systems on everything else. We have rating systems on movies, rating systems on video games, rating systems on music. If something's explicit, it'll have a tag on there. Explicit. It doesn't cause censorship. It doesn't cause people banning stuff. That doesn't happen. That's not happening. Rating systems are in place for the parents so they could decide whether or not they want that child to read this particular thing. That's why I say stop it with these cartoon covers. Do just regular illustrated, have them more detailed, and have it more a depiction of an adult type of scene. You don't need to go and have it to where the couple is having sex on the cover, or they're making out. You could just have it to where it's more of an adult type of embrace, or, a type of cover where they have what the characters look like, but it's not, like I said, you can do it in a way to where it looks more adultish, like I have a couple of things here, on my water bottle. This is from Naomi Lucas. The author created these characters, and there was an artist that created the picture. And as you can see, that's illustrated. That is not for kids, clearly. Clearly not for kids. This one here too. Clearly not for kids. You could tell. It's a illustrated cover, not for kids. There is a difference, you know? So this person has a point. They have a point, and this is something that I've been saying for a while. And why I keep having to reiterate my points and keep repeating myself is that this is not going away, and it fucking irritates me. Because I wish more people would call it out and say, look, can we change the covers? Because all it does is just make us, as romance readers, look like porn peddlers. It makes us look like predators. I'm not a predator. I go and protect my children from this type of content constantly. Because I'm around it. I'm surrounded by it. I'm in a bookish space. So I see this stuff all the time. I can go and protect my children from this stuff. But there are people out there who don't actively read. There are people out there who don't actively read every day, every month. The most people read within the year is 5 books a year. That's the majority of people. We are in the minority when it comes to the romance space. We are the minority when it comes to reading erotic. You know, you may think that there's a lot of people, but there's not. There's not. We are still in the minority of people who read this genre and read open sex scenes. You know, there's a lot of people who still prefer closed door. They don't want to read sex on page. That's not what they're comfortable with, you know? So like I said, if you're going to continue to have these types of covers on books that have sex on page in them, you need to have a rating system on the back, at least a rating system on the back, if not the front or the inside flap of it. Because I'm tired of defending this. I'm tired of defending my genre, the genre that I read the majority of. I'm tired of defending it and having to make excuses for this bullshit when we could just change the covers. It's easy enough for these companies to change the covers, change them around, or add labels to all of these covers. You know? It's easy enough to do. I think the way Call Me Chris did it, I explained this in, like, there's another video I did on my Patreon where I was talking about this drama. And I said that I do feel like the way she went about it was a little harsh, but I think she did have points. She did have points. I understood where she was coming from because I'm a parent. My concern is making sure my children do not have access to this stuff at such an early age. Because I have seen children get their hands on these books at a young age and they become very overly sexualized. And they want to do things and try to act like they're an adult. And then what happens is later on they realize that they made a lot of bad decisions when they were younger, and they didn't have good role models around them that really steered them away from that type of stuff. Like, for an example, my one uncle used to work with kids a lot, and there were other friends of his that he knew that would work with these kids too, like dealing with hockey, playing hockey, teaching them and all that stuff, you know, different stuff. There was this one kid that would hang out with my uncle's one friend, and they would do stupid shit with the kid and keep him out like all kinds of night. What happened to this kid? This kid grew up and ended up going to jail because he kept getting into like bad stuff. If you have bad role models around you when you're young, you're going to get into stupid shit and you're going to do things as an adult that gets you in jail. So if he had proper especially because this kid came from a single family home. single mom. Single moms only can do so much. This is why I decided to go back out into the dating world to try to find a man to be a father figure for my children, because I knew my ex was not going to be that type of person. I just already knew he was not going to be that type of father. And so, yeah, I made the mistake by getting together with the wrong man to have children with, but I knew I wanted to do right by my children and have them have a better father figure. And that's what they have. You know, I went and did the, you know, research of finding a good man, you know, finding a better man, and getting together with him. And now I'm married, and he is a father figure to my daughters. I knew they needed to have a father figure in their life. I had a father figure in my life growing up that was not my biological father. My biological father was a fart in the wind. Never paid child support. Never knew the man. But my stepdad, the man who was dating my mom for many years, was the closest I had to a father. If I did not have him in my life, I don't know where I'd be right now. Honestly. He helped with that foundation to raise me to be the person I am today. So I have to give him respect. I have to give him his flowers for doing that. Was he the greatest stepdad in the world? Fuck no. We had our issues. We had our issues, especially when I was a teenager. But we've resolved that now. We're in a better place now as, you know, people. And so for me, it's like you have to have good people around you when you're younger to guide you in the right direction, because you will fall. You will fail, and it will take you a lot longer to find success. You will learn things the hard way. And that's not something I want people to learn. The lessons that I've learned over the years, I don't want people to learn those same lessons. I want them to say, okay, you went down this path here. I don't want to go down that path. So you're advising me I should go down this path. I probably should go down that path. I probably should listen to your advice and go down this path. You know, so when I go and I tell my children, when you get older, if you want to read that type of stuff, that's on you. That's your, you know, that's your thoughts if you want to do that. But I want to wait till you're older. I want you to be at least 18, 21. I didn't start reading romance novels until I was in my early 20s. You know, before that, I was reading horror and paranormal and things like that. None of that stuff had, you know, YA, you know, none of that stuff had sex in it. There shouldn't be sex in YA. None of that should be in there. There are times and places for sexual content. Adult books for adults, or educational books to educate teenagers on all that stuff. You know, because I don't think teenagers should be ignorant of sex and condoms and, you know, consent, relationships, all that stuff. They should learn that, you know, to be prepared for adulthood. But having them read a romance book is not the same as reading an educational book based on sex and diseases, condoms, pregnancy, you know, women's contraceptives. You know, it's not going to be the same. It's not the same thing. The other one thing is wish fulfillment, you know, or fantasy. The other thing is education. You need to educate them first before you introduce them to erotica and romance with sex on page. It's just common fucking sense. So it really infuriates me when I see people who constantly push and they don't want to have these nuanced conversations. They don't want to go and admit that maybe they're wrong. Maybe they're wrong. Maybe we could do things differently to make things better, to where we're not constantly getting fingers pointed at us all the time. You know, we have to do something. We have to change the way we do covers. We have to. You know, it has to change. More people need to speak out and tell these publication companies or these independent authors, stop pushing this shit. Stop pushing these type of covers. Do something else. Do different covers to where everybody knows the distinction between adult and children. So, yeah. I really like that article. And like I said, I'll leave her stuff down below in my description. So that way you can go and check out her channel if you want to check it out. Or check out her Substack if you have Substack. It's easy to sign up. It's free to sign up. You don't have to pay for people's Substacks. I don't. I go through the free versions of that stuff. Hers is free. She doesn't charge anybody for it. And like I said, for me, I think about this myself where I'm like, you know, I used to like to write, you know. I can go and do that again where I'm like talking about, you know, doing like a blog where I'm talking about like my thoughts on, you know, different things that I've been seeing, you know, whether it's like romance related or other things like, you know, women related too. Like I like discussing different things that maybe women do that I find is toxic or flaws, things like that we can change about ourselves, you know, that type of thing. I like to talk about that stuff too. So for me, I think one day I'm going to do it. I'm going to start like, you know, writing stuff down and, you know, my thoughts and everything like that. And, you know, and I may not be right about everything because we're not. You're not going to be right about everything. You know, you could have people comment in your comment section that might open up your eyes about certain perspectives and stuff like that. That's the whole point of like the human condition. You know, we're humans, we're flawed. We're going to make mistakes. So we can do things to change and make things better. Like we see something is like wrong. Something is like, okay, this is wrong right now. We need to change this. We need to make this better. You know, so that way we're protecting children. And that's what I want to do. I have a soft spot for children, and I don't want them to get taken advantage of or to be put in a situation where they're not emotionally and mentally mature enough to deal with that situation. You know, I want to protect children for as long as possible because they're only kids for so long. And this is something that I've told my eldest daughter. I said, be a kid right now. Have fun. You're only a kid for so long. And then when you turn 18, until the day you die, you are a fucking adult. So you could be an adult for 80 years and you were only a kid until you were 18, you know? In the eyes of the law, at least in, you know, the United States, the age of adulthood is 18. I think it honestly should be like 21. Because if you can drink at 21, yeah, that's probably when you should be considered an adult, 21. Or at least 20, you know? As soon as you turn 20, you're not a teen anymore, you know? 25 is, you know, when your brain fully develops, you know, and you know, don't have anything blocking you at that time, you know. Your brain isn't like still a sponge, you know. So, yeah, I think something needs to change. I don't want to be that type of person that pushes out stuff that isn't appropriate for kids. This is why all of my videos, I tell YouTube, no, this is not for kids. Because I don't want YouTube to push this content out for kids. It's not appropriate. It's not. I'm talking about adult discussions for adults, not for kids. You know, so parents, yes, parents need to do their job of looking after their children and making sure their children are not accessing things that are not appropriate for their age. But also, as a community, as the human community, you know, we need to do better. You know, as a romance community, we need to do better. You know, it's hard to be in this space when I have to constantly see people defending these cartoon covers that I find predatory and inappropriate for the type of content that is involved in it, that's inside, It's hard to defend this. It really is. It's getting harder and harder each day for me to defend this. So yes, I agree with this person. I like having nuanced conversations, and something has to change soon, very soon. But yeah, that's it for this video here. Let me know what you think about this subject, and we'll go from there. But yeah, that's it for this. Have yourselves a good day. Take care of yourselves. Be kind to each other, and I'll see you all on the next video. All right. Bye.